I'm here at Avionté CONNECT 2026 in Minneapolis with Rodrigo Alcaine, CEO of Eastridge Workforce Solutions. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
So, Eastridge is a full service national staffing firm, recruiting, managed services, the whole stack. And you've just been named to SIA's Staffing 100 for North America this year. So, congratulations
Thank
on
you. I
that.
appreciate it. It's super humbling.
And you've also spent a lot of time on the tech side of this industry, not the staffing side. So I'm going to be really interested to see
Yeah,
how your perspective plays into that in this conversation. So thank you so much for being here.
of course.
So you're moderating a panel here about how the agencies pulling ahead have changed the way that they're thinking about the business itself,
Yeah.
not just adding more tools to the stack.
Yeah.
So what piece of that old playbook that people have been running do you think staffing firms are holding on to for too long?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's very interesting. And I do think that a lot of the firms that are moving ahead are certainly thinking about how the customers are procuring talent today and just the way the world of work has changed so drastically and so rapidly over the last couple of years. And I think what folks still tend to hold on to is just adding headcount as a way to get ahead. Right. So we have more orders, add more recruiters. And it's just the reality is with margin compression and the pressures that we're facing in the industry, that is just, you just can't do it that way anymore. And I would say the second thing is how we sell to our customers. That has morphed and changed so much. And we often think about how much COVID has disrupted and created this kind of great ignore with automated outreach and, people reaching out without any value add to the customer. And just continues to get ignored, but we still keep doing it. And the customer is buying very differently. We heard Chris talk about it this morning where staffing is still local, but the decision maker is national and also further removed away from the actual pain point. So we have to upskill and level out how we sell to our customers. And we can't hold on to that anymore.
Tell me what that looks like inside your firm specifically.
Yeah, I think it's a combination. It's an omni-channel approach. I think there's still an opportunity to level up the relationship and the relational part of what we do. And so we have folks internally that are still using the phones, are still going to networking events, and still talking to the end customer at a relational and local level. And I think that's really, really, really important. Secondly, then we match that with very direct and intentional outreach and aligning marketing to sales very intentionally in our messaging and our value proposition. But the value proposition isn't more, we've got great talent and we've got great service and we can move quickly because everyone says that. We really have to tone in around what the customer really needs and what pains are we helping them solve. And not, by the way, we can do that for you, but here's what we have with actual case studies.
So you have led Eastridge through a major transformation, and when you drive any big change, there's always trade-offs,
Yeah.
right? So how do you decide what gets your attention first versus what waits?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say I'm still leading the Eastridge through a major transformation. We certainly haven't arrived yet, but we're a step closer for sure. For me, it's simple. Is anything that touches GP or revenue and cash gets my attention all the time,
Mhm.
especially in the situation that we're in as it relates to the transformation and the turnaround that we're in. And then secondly, the things that I continue to push down the road or ignore, if it gets more and more difficult over time, it needs my attention. So sequencing is just as important as speed. And I would say those are two overarching areas where I spend the majority of my time.
What's been your biggest challenge this year?
My biggest challenge has really been around how do we continue to innovate, transform, and move, but also reduce the cost to serve to our customers and also how we do internally. It almost seems like it's two competing priorities, right? Because you think about investing and you think about moving into new markets, new verticals, or headcount, whatever it might be. But the pressures that we face on the customer side oftentimes makes that very, very difficult. And so I think just really paying attention to what's truly a signal versus a noise. We're in such a crowded market today, and saying yes to everything is incredibly costly. And so just being really, really focused has been our discipline has been our differentiator for sure.
So you've been in leadership positions as a tech vendor and as a staffing agency. So from that vantage point, what is separating the technology that's fundamentally changing the way staffing firms operate from the technology that just looks good on a demo?
Yeah, it's a really good point. Having the advantage of being on both sides of the fence has been really, really interesting. And I learned a lot from being on the tech side of things, not only about what's really important to the customer base, but how they want value delivered and the ROI that comes with that investment. So number one, I think you have to move beyond the demo. And demos are done on clean data. Demos are done in perfect environments and perfect instances. But we all know that our data is messy and our environments aren't perfect. and there's things that change all the time. And oh, by the way, people want things differently and done differently. So you have to pressure test those things. So partnering with a partner that is willing to do that with you and kind of go along that journey to really pressure test. And then secondly, you have to understand what the clear ROI is. If someone's job doesn't look different after 90 days of implementing that software or that technology, why did you do it in the first place? Right? Because if it doesn't change anything, it doesn't bring hard dollar and ROI to the business. And that could be by soft dollar or hard dollar, right? Either hire a GP, it can be getting people more focused on the human element of the work, or offering different services to your customers. If you can't actually put value into that, you're going to be wasting money.
How have you been measuring ROI on your tech investments this year at Eastridge?
Yeah, so that's been it's interesting because we went through, especially as me moving into a new CEO spot and being in this kind of pressure of like, hey, you have to do something with technology, and if you're not, you're just going to be left behind. Well, the reality is that you're going to be left behind, unprofitable, if you just continue to buy the shiny penny. And so I got caught in that trap, and I was like, yes, let's do that. Yes, let's do this. And it was, and then we peel back and say, well, what problem is this really trying to solve? So that's number one. Before we procure anything, before we go down any path as it relates to technology, we try to identify what problem is this solving for us. And if it's aligned to either gross profit, making work simple, or automating workflows, we just don't do it. We'll say no, and it's a hard no. And it might just be not right now. And then we say, how are we going to track this? It's going to have to be by time saved, gross profit improvement, and gross profit EBITDA efficiency. And if it can't do those things, then it's a vanity metric. It's a vanity tool that we don't need at the moment.
Something that I've been talking to a lot of people about is that time saved metric. And it can be kind of a struggle because you save all this time, but then where does it go?
Yeah.
So how do you approach
Yeah,
that?
absolutely. It's like, hey, now what do I do? What do I do with this time? You have to teach people what to do. And a lot of it is just, it's simply might be doing more of the things that you're already doing, just more of it. Right. So,
Mhm.
you know, a year ago, a healthy gross profit per producer could have been one number. And now that number could be 2, 3, 4, 10 times X. So it's their ability to just continue to do more without having to add capital and headcount to do those things. Equally, without burning people out. This
Mhm.
engagement still has to be really, really high to do those things. And in time saved, it's like, all right, what's the core function of the role that you should be doing? Because it's not going through data, and it might not be doing Excel sheets and spreadsheets. It's like, but what's the core function of your job? And this should allow you to do more of those things. And if it can't, then you got to figure those things out, or it could have someone take on more responsibility as well.
So switching gears a little bit, I found a conversation that you had recently with a labor economist, Ron Hetrick, who argued that the talent shortage that's happening right now isn't cyclical.
Mhm.
It's more tied to a longer term demographic shift that's
Yeah.
happening. How did that conversation change about how you're thinking about how you're going to approach the next few
Yeah,
years?
I think my thought process on it's still evolving because it's just an interesting concept, and so many of the things that we've gone through from an industry perspective has been cyclical. You just kind of wait it out, right?
Mhm.
You can't anymore. And so I think two things. One, you have to put a lot of intention and focus on upskilling and reskilling. You can't just magically create more people, and so we have to really think about how do you upskill and reskill, and then educate our customer around doing those things. The skills gap, not looking at college degrees anymore to find and fill some of these open roles. The other thing is what has shifted for me is like, hey, let's stop trying to force the top of the funnel. You post and pray and you just hope that you're going to get more candidates, and you really have to invest in redeployment and re-engagement. And you mentioned this earlier on the keynote as well, is what's the lifetime value of the associate? Because if you continue to redeploy and re-engage that talent, and it could be through their entire journey, it will be phenomenal. And that allows you to not be so dependent or hopeful and wishful that you're just going to get more candidates, because that's just not going to be the case. So that's where it's fundamentally shifted. Where we put capital and where we put money is around the redeployment and reengagement.
So, what do you think that a staffing firm is going to have to get really, really good at to really focus on that redeployment piece?
Yeah, be very intentionally good at a few things. And so I think where we've lost in the past, and where I see a lot of staffing agencies continue to struggle, is they're trying to be all things to everyone. So you have to be really good at saying no, and be really, really good at staying within your core competencies, because that's the only way you can continue to get redeployment and re-engagement for 5 or 6 skill sets versus trying to do it across 15 or 20. And so that's something that we've really narrowed down our focus and say, hey, these are the things we're going to be really, really, really good at. And we're going to invest in this really, really deeply. And so that's what I think people need to do.
Sounds like you've gotten pretty expert in the art of saying no to the right thing, or no
Yes.
to the wrong things,
Yeah.
I guess I should say.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say, I mean, and I tell my teams this all the time. It's like every time we say yes to something, you're inadvertently saying no to something else. So you have to be really intentional what we say no to. And it's discipline. And again, it's not rocket science, right? It's simple, but it's not easy. But you have to have rigor and you have to have discipline.
So, what are you most excited about the conversations that you're having here at Connect?
One of my favorite things at Connect is that you're surrounded by a lot of folks that are just in it with you, and they're similar to you, right? Similar size, similar challenges, similar things, similar places in the life cycle of evolution of the industry. And so it just feels very battle tested, where you can actually have really deep, meaningful conversations around how did you get through it? How are you doing it right now? And oh, by the way, are you going through this as well, which is great. And then the community is just phenomenal. I mean, the fact that they're just willing to open up their playbook and say, here's how we did it. Here's how we failed. Here's my playbook. It's just incredible. And I think we lose sight of how tight this community is. And it's amazing. And you can feel it here. And then, of course, Avionté has been awesome, and their integration partners, and their, all the things that the art of possible where we're heading is just awesome. You see,
A year from now, what will staffing firms be doing differently than they are today?
Gosh, I hope it doesn't take a year from now, but we must continue to be bullish about the value that we add to our customers, and it goes way beyond get a rec and fill a rec. As you can see, this you can talk to 1 million customers, and none of them are saying fill this hard role for me. They want data, they want analytics, they want different services. We showed all the different ways that people are hiring today outside of just W-2 labor. And I think we're going to be a kind of a Swiss Army knife as it relates to that, to help customers achieve the goals that they want by way of great talent. It's just going to look a lot different.
Well, thank you so much, Rodrigo, for sitting down with us and talking to us at Avionté Connect this year. Really appreciate
Yeah,
the
my
time. Good
pleasure. Thank
insights.
you. It's awesome. Thanks.